And well, hello there everybody. I hope you're having a good day and thanks for visiting. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you like the channel, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, real quick, this is gonna be a really short video, hopefully. And I want to talk to you about value. And I'm not talking about the value of Bitcoin or the dollar or fiat values, nothing like that. I'm talking about your value as someone who may work for a company or for somebody else. And you know, that value also extends in terms of relationships as well. Like, for example, does your significant other value who you are and what you do? You know, it's really sad because I know a lot of people personally, and I know associates, colleagues that I work with, and they were taught from an early age not to think too much of themselves. And unfortunately, what's happened is there is this, I'll use the word humility, but it's something else. I can't think of it right now. I'm in front of the camera and I can't remember what it is. But essentially, it's devaluing ourselves to appear humble, or devaluing ourselves thinking that we're not worth a lot. And that's, to me, that's critically dangerous. You know, because if you don't know your value, they're going to tell you what your value is. And there's a lot of variables involved here, but I'm going to talk about work, especially your value at work. So in terms of your value at work, it isn't so much as what you get paid per se, although that has a bearing on it. I'm talking about what do they value about you at work and how do you value yourself. There's a point where if you know your value, there's a point where you're untouchable. And what do I exactly mean by that? What I'm saying is, if you know your value, if you know that your skill set, and I'm not talking about your imagined skill sets, I'm talking about your skill set where it's empirical. In other words, you can prove what you're saying, okay? So if you know your value, you're never going to be scared of walking away, of not negotiating with something that even doesn't make sense to you. So there's a point where maybe in your workplace or in your work life or in your career where it's no longer the right fit. And at that point, you have to be prepared to walk away. And the only way you can walk away safely and feel comfortable walking away is when you can recognize you know what your value is in terms of your skill set, in terms of the way you work, everything across the board, that, you know what, you could literally quit today, walk away from your job, and then find another job within a week. I personally wouldn't do that. I would probably take a few weeks off, you know, just relax a bit, take an unpaid vacation, whatever you want to call it. And that's another thing. Make sure you have some savings as well so that you have that confidence. So, you know, for heaven forbid, the place you're working at suddenly closes down tomorrow or next week. What are you going to do? How does that change your life? What is your next week going to look like unless you have some savings? And that's so critically important. So, again, I'm not sure if I actually answered the question. I'm not sure if this is going to be the shortest video, but it's something I'm going to be posting very soon because I just recognized a situation where and again, I got cut off there. I ran out of room on this phone. Unfortunately, I'm not emptying out the phone too much. Anyway, I was talking about, I saw a situation, I recognized a situation where the value just wasn't there, where people weren't being valued the way they should be valued. And again, it's up to the individual whether they want to stay or go. But there is a point where people will say, you know what, I don't feel like I'm being valued here, and I don't feel I'm being treated in a way that a valuable employee or a valuable contributor, a valuable individual should be treated. And that's why people leave. I think the expression, people don't leave companies, people leave bad managers, is 100% true 99.9% of the time. I know for myself, this is anecdotal, anytime I've seen somebody leave, it's usually because of management, it's usually because of being poorly treated. Maybe there's some internal thing happening, maybe there's favoritism, or like every place, there's always massive amounts of rumors happening, right? And that really is a sad situation, but you know, it happens, right? And so you have to be able to deal with it. And you know what else? I mentioned earlier that what happens if your place closed down, and I made an assumption, and I'm sorry for that. The assumption was maybe you want your place to close down so you don't have to go in, right? So that's the expression that I wanted to make, is that I made that assumption, but really there are some individuals who wouldn't have a problem if the place where they work closed down. And again, that's a dangerous situation, not necessarily for that individual, but for the place running that business. When somehow, some way that the people who work for you are so upset at the way the place is run that they're not willing to actually go an extra step to see it succeed. They really couldn't care less, and the apathy is there. So it's so dangerous to see those situations, and unfortunately I've seen a lot happen. I won't get into details, but the reality is it does happen. Maybe it's happening at your workplace right now, maybe it's happening at your contract, maybe it's happening with your clients, whatever, right? But the number one thing is understand your value, understand where you fit in, really dial in exactly what is your value, what can you empirically prove. Back at it again. So the last part was, what can you empirically prove that you can do? And if you could do that, if you could dial in your value, if you truly understand your value and what you do, then I think you'll always be employable. You'll always find a way to make money. And there's something else as well in terms of jobs. I think everyone always talks about finding a job that they're super passionate about. And that's great if you could do that, right? But I think there's also a benefit to finding a job that's kind of boring, where it doesn't take too much emotional, physical energy out of you. And I know for myself, I've experienced that. I was in the IT industry, programming industry for decades. And that is, to me, one of the most stressful industries ever. Deadlines are unrelenting. And what I did was I took on a job that didn't have as much stress. There's just a lot of little details that has to get done. But compared to my other job as a programmer, full-time programmer, it's really easy. And being a full-time programmer can be like a pressure cooker. There's a high rate of depression in that industry. I know that firsthand. I've seen colleagues literally sort of lose their minds, per se. And it was never good. It was never good. And I'm glad that I kind of got out. And at the time that I did have to take some time off. And now I program stuff that I really want to program, stuff that I believe in, stuff that I find interesting. And that's a huge deal. But at the same time, being able to take on a job that also isn't going to take me personally away from what's going on in my life, that I can actually control, that I can leave behind. Programming, you never totally leave everything behind. Anyway, keep that in mind, everybody. I have a feeling I probably made this video way too long, and I'll stop right here. Okay, bye-bye.